Well, okay, Women's March. What do you actually want? You see, it all seems a bit incoherent from outside. I mean, it seems like it's really just a big anti-Trump protest, which is fair enough. Trump's terrible. But marching isn't really going to do anything on that score. You need to get out and vote next time that you have an opportunity. And if you just want an anti-Trump protest, why cut out 50% of your potential marchers in this way? I mean, there's a lot of men that are anti-Trump as well, so why exclude them? You don't seem to have any kind of unified point, just some kind of incoherent anger at Trump and at the system, and it's just really vague. And then you don't seem to agree with each other much at all. I mean, there were trans women marching and there were anti-trans women marching, for example. I mean, what do you want? I mean, there's a few issues going around, but what do you want us men, apparently, to do about it? I mean, we're as screwed as you are for the most part. Okay, so there's Me Too, is great outpouring of rage, is itself incoherent because it seemed to include everything from rape all the way down to the other end of the spectrum for someone checking you out. So how can we take that seriously, and what do you want us to do? I mean, rape and sexual assault and things are terrible, but we need a coherent definition and an understanding of what is and isn't acceptable behaviour, and then you have to understand that there are always going to be people that push past those boundaries of acceptable behaviour, who do bad things, and that's not the fault of a gender as a whole, that's the fault of the individual that transgresses. People already know that these things are wrong and they do them anyway, so what do you want us to do about it? Education isn't going to solve the issue. Law enforcement can, but we're talking about a set of crimes that very often comes down to he said, she said, without any kind of supporting evidence whatsoever. So how do you want to tackle this? I mean, you say believe women, which is all very well at the point of taking a report and investigating, but at that point you have to stop believing women and you have to start believing what the evidence demonstrates, what the evidence shows. I mean, do you want us to just toss out the entire judicial system, the entire presumption of innocence upon which Western justice is based, so that we avoid sending innocent people to jail? It's not like that. It's particularly helpful anyway these days, because a mere accusation is enough to ruin someone's life. A single tweet casting an aspersion towards someone's sexual misadventures or whatever is enough to get them fired, get their series cancelled, get them struggling to find work anyway. And this just on someone's say-so. You already have that enormous amount of social power that completely bypasses the judicial system. So, I mean, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to get rid of the presumption of innocence, and only in relation to sex crimes, alleged sex crimes against women? You want us to dismantle the entire premise of Western justice and logic, the burden of proof, to get a few more rapists in jail at the cost of probably quite a few innocent people. And that doesn't seem reasonable to me. It's tragic and it's horrible and it's nasty that these things happen and that it's so hard to prove that they've happened. But do you really want us to move to an inquisitorial system of justice where someone has to prove their innocence? I mean, that's been tried, and the standard of evidence required has been lowered in American universities, and they're being sued by the students who get excluded on that basis, and those students are winning. So yeah, that's costing society a lot. So really, what do you want us to do in this instance? And it's all very well saying that this is a problem. We know it's a problem. We acknowledge it's a problem. It's a terrible thing that happens. But what can we do? Time's Up is the other hashtag, and it's also kind of tied into the whole wage gap issue. So again, what do you want us to do about that? Pay women more for the same amount of work? pay more for jobs that the market has determined is not worth as much to society and doesn't pay as much. I mean, time's up. It's supposed to be about addressing gender imbalance across all industries, but you just know they're not going to be pushing for women to do ice trucking or crab fishing or any of these other incredibly dangerous male-dominated positions. No, they're going to be focused on the entertainment industry and CEOs and business leaders and so on. And the evidence suggests that for whatever reason, men and women of their own volition choose different paths in life. So the only way to reach this parity would be by authoritarian force. Surely what we want is actually pretty much what we have today, where anyone can choose to do anything with their lives, and we let the chips fall where they may and let people follow their dreams to the biggest extent possible. I mean, and this is what's behind things like the Norwegian gender paradox. When the society is really free, when people can completely choose whatever they want to do, to some extent people choose things in a way that's reflected in their gender demographics as divergent. More women go into caring professions, more men go into dangerous or physical professions. I'm a writer, I don't understand that myself, why men do that, but they do. So how are we supposed to change that? And if men are pushier, and if men favour work over life in their balance, and women favour life over work in their balance, that's going to be reflected in success, in money, and all these things. And remember, this isn't talking about individuals. You might be different. This is just talking about broad demographic trends, which are on a bell curve. So you might be at one extreme end, but most people are going to be in the middle. And those middles are divergent by gender. So again, what exactly is it that you want us to do? How is it you want to rearrange society? Because if anything, men have been missing out. They haven't had this message that they can do anything, that it's okay for a man to be a nurse or a flower arranger or a stay-at-home dad, and for that to be okay, while women have been told that anything they do is feminist and it is cool and okay. Men haven't had that same messaging, and maybe it's time for that. But you're fixated on this one side, and only in the way that it benefits you. Are you going to, as a collective, women, take up some of the slack, take on some of the hard, physical, dangerous jobs? Are you going to sacrifice life and children and so on in order to pursue success at work? Because in the end, all of this, I mean, it's really down to you. And for us, it's down to us if we want to change things and pursue caring and more feminine work. That's down to us as men. It's down to us as individuals. The environment that we already have is fairly open to this, so it's really up to you. And if you want Trump out, and I think a lot of us do, not that the alternative is much better, get out and vote next time, because this ain't gonna do shit. And if you want to have more traction, a coherent message is really helpful. Zang. It's been called misogynistic, racist, a hate group, reactionary. It's been blamed for Trump, for keeping women out of games and technology. None of this is true. If you want the real story, then you need to buy Inside Gamergate. Wait a minute. This is not my beautiful house.